Hello and welcome to Model Kit Stuff, and the last in our 3 first impressions videos that are linked to the 80th anniversary of the Bismarck chase, the subsequent sinking of both HMS Hood and the Kriegsmarine ship Bismarck. And in this video we will be having a look at Trumpeter's 1/350 scale heavy cruiser Prinz Eugen, which obviously was the ship that sailed with the Bismarck on Operation Rheinbung. So, without further ado, let's have a look at the kit. So the box has some really nice artwork of the ship steaming through the sea. What sea that would be, I am not quite sure. I don't know whether this is a picture of her with her German crew crossing the Atlantic on the way to the United States after the war, or whether this is to do with the retreat of civilians from the advancing Soviet Union. I don't know. But what Trumpeter did, in their ultimate wisdom, is decided that if they were going to make a model of Prinz Eugen, they were going to depict her as she was at the end of the war in 1945, rather than as she was during her 2 most famous events, the sinking of the Bismarck and subsequent Channel dash. Anyhow, the artwork is lovely, and it tells us here it's a detailed scale ship for adult collectors to assemble. And we have same information that we have on the front on that side. It's the same on the other end, and on here we have colour pictures of the Prinz Eugen, of an S100 Snail boat, which is also included in the kit, and the Arado 196s, which were carried on the ship, and then something in Chinese. And on this other side we have a little bit of history, and another picture, this time an overhead shot of the Prinz Eugen and the 3 etch sprues that are included in the kit. So we can see those there. And finally, the kit number is 05313. Let's start with the instructions, and here I need to make an apology up front. These instructions have already been marked up ahead of or in readiness for building this model, and these were actually used in one of my early videos, might have been my first channel video, which was how to mark up and use complex kit instructions. I will put a link to that video at the end of this video if you've not seen it. So, front cover gives you a silhouette drawing outline of the Prinz Eugen as she's going to be depicted in this model, as she was in 1945, which basically means that she's had some alterations to her radar arrays and bits and pieces like that, and she's had additional armament, particularly anti-aircraft armament. Then you get a sort of things you should know before you start. Then you've got your build icons. There's a little instruction there for applying your decals. Then, in true Trumpeter fashion, we have all the parts laid out so you know exactly what you should be getting and you can check against. So you can see here we've got split hull, which allows us to do a waterline. We've got a 3-part deck. Then we've got what they're calling the upper deck, which I would call the lower superstructure. Then we've got the various sprues. That carries over more sprues, clear sprues, two different etch frets and the decals. So step 1 starts with assembly of the upper hull and the deck. There's no supports for the deck. Then it starts building up the armament. So you've got torpedo tubes, anti-aircraft guns, secondary armament, main armament, all being built up as sub-assemblies ahead of the next step, which is to attach them all to the deck. So basically what we're doing is adding armament at this stage and doing everything that's at deck level. We then build up the lower superstructure, which is all done in slab form, and it looks fairly detailed from these pictures. And then we're making up secondary armament and building up this lower superstructure at its upper deck level. So there's a clear step of doing this in layers. So deck, next deck up, and so forth. Then we've got some more sub-assemblies, making up photo etch ladders, more superstructure assembly. We have, interestingly, we've got photo etch ladders there, but we've also got plastic ladders. It does say option, so if you're preferring to not mess around folding etch and you may be a younger modeler or not experienced with etch, you have got an option for the horrid plastic ladders if you wish. Interestingly, I'm looking at this upside down and that makes sense to me, so that must be upside down to you. But I guess that's so you can see what's going on. Seem to have the anti-aircraft guns on some form of top-mounted swivel, which is intriguing. Have a look at that in more detail when we build this. Then we're building up basically what is the command tower superstructure. So we've got the observation deck there being built up. Again, options for the ladders, so that's nice. It's not something they do anymore. So all of this page is step 9, and there's lots and lots of different sub-assemblies here, and you can see that I've actually divided that up into lots of different sub-assemblies, and I've resequenced them. So although this is their step 9, I've got step 28 here, all the way through to 32. But we're basically building up more of the bridge and commander's bridge, admiral's bridge, those type of structures. We've got the radar, we've got the rangefinders all being put together. Then we assemble with the mast, more rangefinders, and then we sort of put it all together. So it's a sequence of sub-assemblies, then a final assembly, then more sub-assemblies and final assemblies. And I've had to sort of go through that and make sense of it so it build the way I'd want to build it. But actually the build sequence isn't too bad. It's not like we're building sub-assemblies that we put away for months until we get to them. We're building them ahead of needing to fit them, so it makes a certain amount of sense. Then we've got the main mast being built up. It's quite a few steps there because it's quite a complex build with simple starfish and yard arrays. Got some photo etch ladders going on there, searchlights, signal flag locations. This, I'm guessing, would be the hangar, from my knowledge of German ships. Yes, that's the hangar there, which has the slide back roof so that the aircraft can be lifted out by the crane. So quite typical of German ships sort of interwar period. So Admiral Scheer has it like that, for example. So quite a lot of armament going on. Some of this, if you wanted to model it in the 1941 configuration, would need looking at and a lot of reference material to get it right. Then we've got the catapult for the Arado. Funnel top, and building the funnel, adding the top, floats. Quite a bit of photo etch work involved here with railings and the like. Then we've got cranes. We should be making 2 of those. Yes, make 2. Ships, boats. Not too many ships, boats on German ships. And the cradles for them, and the sort of the davit assembly, which goes on the side of the deck. So then we're adding the 3 big sub-assemblies that were built up to the lower superstructure, and then we're adding 1 or 2 other details, which are the paravanes, more main armament, and then before we attach that, they have us building up the little torpedo boat that comes with it, and you can see that's quite detailed. You know, it's two-part hull, deck. It's got all the rudders and propeller equipment at the bottom that has to be built up from several parts. It's got separate guns, separate torpedoes, vents and rafts, etc. So, yeah. Then finally, you put this full superstructure onto there. It's not quite how I'll build it. I prefer to build as we go. Then lastly, it's adding ship's boats. So more cradles and then the ship's boats. In what is, oh, there's a little bit over there. Right, yeah, so steps 20, then once you've built all that up, you're going to put the lower hull on. No way. Absolutely no way. All that delicate stuff, and then you're going to try and put a hull on that's not necessarily going to fit and sand it, and no thank you. Anyway, this is how Trumpeter chose to do it in this particular instance, with the ship's planes built last, and you do have an option for folded back wings, which is really nice because they didn't bother doing that on their 1/200 scale Bismarck, but they've done it on their 1/350 scale Prinz Eugen. Anyhow, 22 steps as Trumpeter see it. I think I got it up to, where are we? I think I got it up to 94 steps in reality. And you can see, adding lower hull, step 2, not step 22. Right, anyway, those are the instructions. They're good, they're clear, they sort of make sense in the way that they work with building small sub-assemblies that then are immediately going on the superstructure. I'd certainly build the lower hull up and get that built before you start putting stuff on the deck. And you can probably build these components as you go rather than as big sub-assemblies, which become much more at risk of being damaged in my view. Let's have a look at the parts. So first out of the box is the lower and upper hull halves. So if we deal with the lower hull first, it's typical of the earlier Trumpeter kits. It's just a lump of plastic. The stabilizers look alright. They're not bad at all. They're not too chunky. They look right. We've got some fairly hefty slide mould seams here and big, actually quite sharp nubs. And other than that, it's totally featureless. So we've not got docking keel, we've not got sea chests, we've not got any form of weld seams, panel lines or anything like that, just a featureless slab. However, that's no different to most. The shape is about right. We'll have a look at that better in a minute. There's quite a heavy seam on the front there. I can't see any sink particularly, which is nice. But there is quite a bit of heavy seam to deal with. Then we have this upper hull section, and we have the bow is looking pretty much the right shape, and the anchor looks to be in the right place, but we'd need to look at our references to be sure. And the scuttles aren't too bad in terms of shape, because the bow has quite a gradual cut in. It's not too bad in terms of the angle of moulding of these. There's quite a thin, almost razor sharp bow here, so they've done quite a good job of getting the bow shape right. That looks better than they've done with their 1-200 kits of late, well, ever. Quite a bit of flash on it though. We have a huge, I don't know whether that's supposed to be part of the kit or not. I think not. Seems to be a huge connection point at the back on the stern here. But I won't remove that until I've checked. I know what should be there, and that looks oversized if it is what I think it is. So let's just plop these together and check the fit while we've got them out. Well, that went together with a reassuring snap. Yeah, that's not going to be any issues. Tight as a drum, that. It's not misshapen, it's not wanting to form out. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so next we have the blanking plate for the bottom of the hull if we're going to do the waterline version. So yeah, it's just a piece of plastic. And then we have this centre deck. My concern is that given that there is no supports in the hull, this is going to go and be fixed just on the edges. So I don't know how rigid that's going to be, because that's quite a thin bit of plastic really. Anyhow, we have the deck rendered on there, which looks quite nice. We have the joining point for the forward deck with the breakwater, and then we have the rear joining point here along a superstructure edge. So be interested to see what we have in the way of a gap there when we come to put it together. I don't think Prinz Eugen has a drop down. I think it's an all single piece flat deck. It's not like Rafts Bay, I don't believe. Then we've got location points for the superstructure and for the armament, and we have some flash. So the next bag has the remaining deck parts and this lower superstructure bit. So we've got the forward deck, actually. So what we've got they're still called hose pipes, even though they're not pipes, but the hose pipe openings here. I think the top of the hose pipes is a bit heavy and probably wants sanding down a little bit. You can see they sit proud of the deck a lot, and that's not quite right. They should have a little sort of loop that goes over them. What is missing is as the anchor sits there should be two chains which hold the anchor in place, one on each side of the anchor, and there's nothing there for that. There's not even a location point for that, so those would need to be added. Then we've got the chain depicted on the deck. The chain looks really nice, actually. Looks good. Deck looks good. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Then we have a look at the stern deck. We've got more chain there. You'd want to open up the little hole there for the stern anchor. We've got some skylights and various other bits and pieces on there, all quite nicely done. Then we have this, I would guess, slide moulded deck. So we've got trunking on the bet fronts. Looks like there's parts to add to that, I would imagine. And then we've got wood deck, steel deck, wood deck combinations. We've got openings for the ladders. We've got all the little side framework there. There would be net on that. So yeah, everything that should be there is there, and quite a nice, and all the shapes depicted nicely. Has an ever so slight raised edge. I don't know whether that's correct or not. It's a little bit of flash in places, but otherwise, details very, very nice. Next sprue out of the box is the display stand. So my next bag has 2 sprues in it. These sprues are G, so 2 the same. And on there we have, at each end we have slide moulded gun turrets, which have got nice rivet detail, some moulded on ladders. Yeah, they're not too shabby at all. Then we've got rangefinders, gun shields, paravanes, different style of gun shields, got gun platforms there, ships, boats, anti-aircraft guns, searchlights, a couple of anchors, signal lamps and various observation equipment, cable reels, some nice detail on the inside of the ship's boats, although the side of the boats looks really, really heavy. You can see that the sides there are really, really heavy. There's our slide moulded turret. So this is Sprue E, which has the lower superstructure panels on, and we've got lots and lots of detail on here. So we've got the portholes, we've got the doors, we've got the correct shaped rectangular ones as well as the circular ones. Slightly oversized life rings there, but at least we've got them. Ventilation spacers. Yeah. There are the little rain eyebrows above all the windows. So that's all quite nice. Sprue C, this has got our mast on it, which is very, very flimsy at the end. We've got the ship's propellers there, funnel top, more ship's boats, quite heavy again, the ship's boats. We've got some superstructure, bulkheads and bits and pieces, some trunking, a little bit of deck, so these will be bits that go on the mast or around the funnel. Ship's belt. See the slats on the inside of the funnel there? Sprue A has lots and lots of deck parts on it. Some of these are steel, but most of them are wooden. All of them have textures on, which is lovely to see, very finely moulded. We've got the correct waffle style grating deck there. Whether it goes all the way back, I don't know, we'll have to check. And we've got quite a lot of finely moulded splinter shield detail there. That's very nicely done. Roof of the hanger wall there. It's got, so that's an internal wall. It's got a door on it. It's got some textured panel lines on it. Got a combination of wood and steel deck on there. I mean, this is as good as Trumpeter in terms of deck detail. Sorry, as good as Tamiya. Quite a lot of injection marks on the underside where we've got quite a lot of detail that makes it difficult to clean up. That's always what happens with this stuff. No doubt I'll be removing it and replacing it with photo etch. So the next sprue's out at F. There's two of these, and you can see they come in a foam wrap, and that's because we've got this delicate cradle assembly here for the ship's boat. So we've got the turret bottoms, we've got the crane, which is pretty standard, bland, featureless. Has a hook on it though. The crane bottom's quite nice. That has some detail, gives you some idea that there was some mechanism going on there. Got the larger secondary armament guns there. The main gun barrels are hollowed out, although they're a little bit messy. Then we've got the spare barrel tubes. Got the plastic ladders should you choose to use them. More floats, and then the torpedo tubes. Now in the 41 version, I think these are open, and by 45 they've got like a shelter on them. Sprue D. So we've got more mast structure, very nicely moulded, some really delicate parts that will look great under paint, very nicely done to scale with textured decks. I mean, really very nicely done. And then you've got next to that really oversized, chunky, doesn't look nice, fairly nasty boat chocks. You know, so you've got two extremes next to each other there. Then we've got the funnel, which looks very detailed, and that looks really nice. Put that together, that's going to absolutely look the part. You've got trunking there, you've got hand rungs in place, got quite a lot of structure on the front there. Usually boats on there, I think. Whether that's the case here, I'm not sure. Then we've got the command superstructure at the tower there. And you've got the little aft mast, the propeller components there. Mixed bag this sprue, but there's some really nice parts and there's some junk. So you can see, really nicely done. Chunky rubbish. Really nicely done. Chunky rubbish. Bit of a mixed bag, but nothing we can't sort out. Then we have Sprue B, which is the last of the big sprues for the main ship. So we've got some more forward superstructure deck area there. We've got more bulwarks and various bits and pieces to make up superstructure. Some more bits that would go on the funnel. We've got gun control, range finding, more propeller shafts. We've got the catapult there, which is really nice. Catapult's very nicely done. More plastic ladders, funnel cap, ducting outlets, a big slab of a radar, which will need replacing. But you could, under paint, you could make that look like it's actually not one slab of plastic. There's another one there. And then we've got a grate there for the funnel top that doesn't look brilliant. And then we've got this. I absolutely hate it when they put the scale on. And it says German cruiser. At least they've not said Trumpeter or something like that on it. But it's a heavy cruiser, so I'd have preferred the word heavy cruiser on there. It says 1945. I'm probably going to want to retrofit this down to 41 if I can. Need to do some research on that. I'm not going to be using that. So you've got some very nicely done parts and some parts that are a little bit heavy, but with a little bit of care you can thin those down and make them look really good. What you've got is essentially very nice, crisply moulded, and you've got some clear assembly instructions to make sure you make a good job of it. I mean, there's lots of fine rivet detail on some of this armoured control tower roof, for example, and you've got lots of bits of ducting and hand rungs rather than ladders, which is correct in places. So all in all, very nice job. One of Trumpeter's better early kits. I think this kit probably set the standard for Trumpeter when it came out and raised the bar for them a little bit more. It was the first kit, I think, that you could say gave them a good pop at the more recent Tamiya kits and set them ahead of a lot of the market. It's very nice. It's got 3 sprues in, slide moulded secondary armour shields. Very, very, very detailed. Very nice, those. I mean, you almost can't hold them that prickly with detail. You can feel it popping out at you. Yeah. If there was any part of this kit you were going to slide mould, it would definitely be these. They look fabulous and will absolutely look amazing under paint. Then we have some clear parts. So 2 sprue that makes up the Arado aircraft. For me, it'd be nice if it was just that bit that was clear, the cockpit, the bit that you want clear. But no, they make the whole thing clear, and they're really difficult to assemble when they're clear. And the clear plastic tends to be a bit more brittle, so these tiny parts here that are used to support the floats, you can break them much more easily than if they weren't clear parts. The propeller will be a little heavy as a result. It would have been nice if they put that in the photo etch set. That would look a little bit more to scale, but all in all, you've got nice detail there. You've got panel lines. it's made up of 3 parts. All looks right, so yeah. You can see the texture in there on the wings. So in addition to the Prinz Eugen, you get this separate kit, which they now sell as a separate kit, believe it or not. But in this kit, it's Sprue S, and you get this little S100 Snail boat, Torpedo boat, which has quite a lot of nice detail actually on the deck as we look at that. It's very well populated, nice and busy. Get 2 hull halves which have got the detail on the hull that you'd like to see, and the torpedo doors at the front there. Got this little separate gun and its shield. Another gun there. Another gun there. That gun looks a little damaged. Propellers, torpedoes, floats. Looks like some form of vents, more vents there, and a hatch of some type. Proper nice. So let's just take a quick look at the decals included. So you get small sheet of decals with 2 flags that actually are quite nicely reproduced. You get the little aircraft identification swastika and the white circle background for it, which is correct for late war. And then you get markings for the aircraft. And 1 or 2 other markings which might also be for the aircraft or could be for the main armament. Quite often they had names and so on. So actually nicer than some of the more recent decals. The print on that's nice. Not sure that the colour is correct. That red looks a bit dark. To me, it looks a little bit off. But no depth markings, which you'd expect. So, as always, just a bit short on the decals. Okay, so lastly we have the photo etch. And we have 2 of these stock railings. I'm glad to see that what they've included is 4, 3 and 2 bar railings. So you've got plenty of railings which would be correct for putting around different structures on the ship. But they are fairly standard, fairly stock. Nothing wrong with them at all. Absolutely nothing wrong with them at all. But basically you have to cut them to length rather than them producing the correct length etched railings to fit what you need. So that's fret B. Fret A has the optional ladders that we saw being used throughout the instructions. We get a bit of railing that is for a dedicated area, some vertical ladders. Not quite sure what those are, but what's really nice to see is they did put a replacement funnel cap in. So that plastic one there you can shove in, or you could go for this lovely etched one which will look a lot better. We've got a couple of crane hooks, and those would be platforms for around the funnel, I'm guessing. What that long thin strip is for didn't shout out to me when we looked through the instructions, but there we go. So that is it. Now let me just show you how packed this box is. There we go. The box is absolutely full to the brim. Now, currently in the UK, this will set you back around about £80, although you can pick it up £60 if you shop around. So it's not their cheapest model, but it's absolutely not their most expensive model. So what's my first impressions? This is one of their earlier kits, and as such, some of the detail is not quite as doesn't quite have the finesse of some of their more recent kits. Having said that, They really went to town on this kit when they brought it out, and it has lots and lots of detail. Being trumpeter, the fit's going to be no issue. You've got lots and lots of texture where you want it, and it's busy. So yeah, I think this will build up to a beautiful model, and I think it's actually one of the better trumpeter kits. There are some trumpeter kits out there which are, just avoid. There are some out there that are not so bad, but all in all, when you consider that they've got the hull shape right, the bow is nice and thin, they've done a decent job on this, a better job than some of their more recent kits in places. So actually, I really like this kit. Best Trumpeter 1350 scale kit is their HMS Hood, because it was the most researched. This might be their second best kit, in my view. As a result of it being Trumpeter and 1350 scale and German, it's also been very popular with the aftermarket people, and as I wanted to make a proper good job of this, I pretty much bought everything you can get for it. So let's have a look at what we've got. Well, firstly, I wanted to replace the name plaque, and so we bought this, all in Chinese, so I don't know what it says, but it comes in a nice little box and gives you sort of acrylic name badge which has got the coat of arms on it. It's got the German flag without any emblems that might cause offence, and then it says Prinz Eugen in a Germanic text, and I rather liked that, so that will be the display nameplate on the base, whatever base option we end up going with. If you remember, the main armament in there was okay. It had hollowed out ends, but it was a bit lumpy bumpy. So a set of brass barrels become essential, really. And so we have these master brass barrels. What the brass barrels give you is no hassle with having to clean up seam lines and putting flats on and misshaping the barrels in the process. So it's a nice, easy process. And they're usually better to scale, have a nice to scale opening, and you get the little subsections marked out nicely on them. So I just think they add to the process of building them. And the plastic floats included in the kit, and there's many of them, actually are really not bad at all, but they are slightly too square. They need rounding off a little bit. Now, you could use the ones in the kit, absolutely no hassle at all. However, I did purchase from Orange Hobby some of their resin ones, which come with tons of little photo etch, so you can put the little wire mesh in the bottom. And the main advantage is that you'll then have see-through mesh rather than a moulded chunk that you've got to put a dark wash in to make it look like mesh. So these will look a bit more realistic. So you get a little Ziploc bag full of the little resin floats, and then a little fret of etch that allows you to build up the centres. These are the instructions for the Resin Life rafts. So you can see you remove the raft from its casting block, and you have two pieces of etch to put in. One of those has a little bit of sag in it, so it'll look really realistic when done. Next we have a deck. I got this one at the time. I'd not used this brand before. So it's a Jinlong Industries. I have since used one of their decks, and it went together lovely. Really, really nice. And they come at it slightly differently to others, as they have done the same process of lasering, but their lasering seems to have a lighter touch, so you don't get all this heavy scorching at the ends. And I think it actually is one of the better looking decks when it comes to wood overlay. Obviously, it's not like a scale deck that's printed, which has a better look again. The disadvantage to this is that the wood that they use has quite a clear, pronounced grain. It's a cheaper wood, possibly. So what you end up getting in some of the big areas is you get this little run of the wood grain that you can see. Once it's broken up with some of the fittings, it's not so bad. But it's a small downside. But your payoff is you get a much nicer, better lasered deck. It's better than a Pontos deck. It doesn't have the heavy scorching of Pontos or KA or the Mark 1 decks. They're all quite heavily scorched. It's also thinner than those. Generally, it's also cheaper than those. And unlike those, it also comes with, if you can see in the background, you get a full sheet of die-cut masks. So you can put your deck down, you can then put masks over it, and then paint all your superstructure without worrying about it getting on your deck. Brilliant. And they supply you a chain that's a bit on the shiny side. Probably needs a matte coat or something on it before you use it, but you do get some chain with it as well. And you can see they've even covered off the ship's boat's interior and things like that. So you get everything that you want for the wood deck areas. Just to show you the brand. So I wanted to improve the slightly lackluster decals that you get with the kit. So we bought into the Peddinghaus decals. They come from Germany. I've used them many times. They're absolutely fabulous decals to use. Comes with a big A4 colour sheet showing you where to use them. So you have depth marks, you've got the little shield there that goes on the front of it, you've got the little eagle that goes on the back, you've got the aerial recognition markings as a decal to go on, which you can use as a decal or you can use to make a paint mask. This is one single decal sheet, so you can cut these out as close as you like. You've also got the shields for the aircraft and the insignia, the national insignia markings as well, and it shows you where to put them. So you've got the shield at the front there, and then you've got the colours, and then on the back they've got an alternative colour scheme with red top turrets and camouflage patterns there, and showing you where you'd use those decals. So you've got a big decal there that can go and cover a large portion of your ship, and the flags. Then of course you couldn't possibly build a model ship without adding some photo etch to it, could you? So this is the White Ensign Models photo etch set, which comes with two huge sheets, absolutely massive, and we will show you what they look like first. Firstly, we have on this sheet here, you've got the railings cut to size and shaped for the bow. You've got walkways. You've got various little components. You've got a whole new radar arrays, which will look a lot better. You've got nice new cable reels. You've got better ladders. I'm not quite sure what those are. We'll have a quick look in a minute. A massive array of watertight doors, and they even look like floats, so it could be that they match up with those and you make up some floats. So we've got even more floats should I need them, and probably some for the spares box, and front covers for the searchlights, and we've got yards there, so very nice, lots of detail. And then on this second sheet, which is a thicker etch sheet than the thicker metal, I should say, than the other one. Sorry, I said that was C. That was C's copyright. That's sheet A. This is sheet B. And we've got, so like the plastic fretwork we saw on the deck, the framework that goes along the side, we've got replacement there. We've got replacement starfish for the mast, which gives us some nice extra detail, and some of the rigging with it. We've got some replacement steel decks. We've got a replacement catapult, which has more detail on it. Importantly, we've got two lovely new cranes there with lots and lots of detail on there, rather than just the blank plastic that we got in the kit. We've got replacement davits for the boats, which have got all the correct ropes included and the little walkways. We've got replacement boat chocks, which have got lots of detail on it and gets rid of the sort of the blank plastic triangles and gives you some more detail. Got more walkways. We've got replacement tops for the ship's boats, davits, replacement parts for the ship's boats to add some finesse and better cabins. We've got anchor chain, which can be used to replace the anchor chain that was moulded on, and the little locks for them for the anchors, which we noted were missing. So lots and lots of detail there. Let's have a quick look at the instructions. So usual typical White Ensign model instructions. Starts with your parts, gives you a number, lists out what they are. So you've got 61 different parts on that sheet. And then that sheet takes you to 145 photo etch parts, and that's not individual parts. So the oars is one part, and as you can see, you're actually at 16 parts there, something like that. So how White Ensign work is they do lots of sub-assemblies and then show you where to locate various elements. So there's lots of detail being added here, reworking the jack staff, stern jack staff, for example, added bits for the paravanes. You've got railing positionings, replacing parts, and it does give you written instructions as well as pictorial, but only in English. Replacing parts for the mast, the radar, quite complex mast assembly parts, various different bits to go on some of the decks and platforms. That's the lamp platform there. Then you've got different mast construction. One of the things that White Ensign do is they give you options for different periods sometimes, which is why I bought this photo etch, because they make it clear what to use and what not to use at different periods, which I always like. I've not read these in detail. I'm assuming they've done that because that's what they usually do, but that is why I bought them. So yeah, some parts being built up there. You can see replacing it. So torpedo storage, catwalks, early funnel platform, boats and cradles. Forward boat cradles, aft boat cradles, sea boat launch gantry. So you're upgrading the parts there. Then we've got the ship's boats being built up, and they didn't stop there. They included a photo etch set for the little torpedo boat as well, which is here. So reminds me very much of my 1/700 scale etch, but this is obviously 1/350. But you've got railings there with canvas covers, which is nice. You've got the propellers and various other little bits and pieces, you know, mast yards and the gun deck platform, jack staff, vertical ladders, all very nice. And for this one, I also have the Flyhawk etch set for this, which gives you some more barrels, bit of etch, some more etch, bit more etch, bit more etch, then some more etch, then a little more etch, then a bit more etch, and finally some etch. Okay, so this takes this model up to its ultimate build sort of level, really. So let's just see how ridiculous Flyhawk get with their etch, because they do a lovely job of testing your sanity. So we have lots of etch here for the guns. Then we've got more replacement ladders, so I've got plenty of addendum. We've got jack staffs, we've got all sorts of cables here which are finer than the white ensign ones for the various different cranes, but give you them at different heights, which is nice. Got some ladders, we've got the replacement structure again. We've got a nice metal eagle there, so if you want to do the early version, we can do that. It omits the swastika, but we can get that out of one of the Decals sets. We've got various different lockers being replaced, and we get the coat of arms for the bow, so we can put the decal over that and settle it down, and it'll look really nice, assuming that they're both are lined up. We've got some life rings there and various other bits and pieces. We'll have a look at the instructions in a minute. We've got a more in-depth ship's boats build with inside elements with the planking on. So we've got the wood deck option, or we've got the painted etch option. We've got more ship's doors. This time we've got the elliptical versions as well, and smaller openings, and these all have the ability to be shown open, which of course they wouldn't be under normal running in wartime, but yeah, we've got those, so that's all very nice. Got another set of cranes, so I've got 2 stabs at getting it right. I think the detail on here is slightly finer than the white ensign one. And then that's got all the hooks and the little wheels, and you have to fold them over. I don't know what they are, but they look very, very tiny. And then we've got the ventilation for the superstructure that was moulded on, which was quite heavy. This has the vent slats and the grills, and that is going to look super nice. Got a replacement breakwater, more cable reels. They look like more raft insides, a different approach maybe. So yeah. Then we have all the various portholes and scuttles with their opening lids. So plenty of detail to go there. We've got the gun emplacement decks, walkways with the proper mesh railings. Those are the doors, the view hatch doors for the gun turrets. Very nice. We've got the catapult, again better detail than the white ensign. We've got the cradle for the aircraft to sit on. We've got etched propellers. We've got nice searchlight covers, they're better again. We've got interior detail for the hangar and detail for both the inside and the outside of the hangar roofs, which is lovely. So the sliding one and the non-sliding one, just to be clear. We've got radar assemblies there, more boat chocks, some very tiny parts there, I don't know what they are. Then we can take all the moulded off detail off the funnel and replace the grab handles with etched grab handles, which will really bring it to life. And that's proper beautiful. And the walkways that go around the funnel, we've got the proper perforated walkway, whereas in the kit you've just got a solid metal etch, and we've got a new funnel cap and deck area with the railings already on, and another boat davit with a slightly different array, so we'll have to have a look at which one's right. But this is fairly thin. You can see the deck's curling already, so fairly thin, and I've not even annealed this yet, which we will have to do. And again, the perforated deck on the mast. So the detail of the accuracy of this is probably the best of all the etch we've seen. And then here we get underside of some of the superstructure, so it allows you to put, so that's where we had all those ejector pin marks. We can just cover them up and then put all the bracketry in, so that's really nice. We get a new Admiral's cabin, bridge I should say, so we can glaze that and that'll look to scale because it'll be thin metal. Better waffle deck. Yeah, we get the nice meshed railings, really lovely, and barrels. So I've got plenty of barrels. So yeah, some for the spares box as well. Let's take a look at the instructions. So the flight instructions give you there's all your different frets, gives you a little bit of the key for the instructions. They're in colour and they go sort of top to bottom. So page 1, step 1, so main turret, we're replacing the barrels. We've got some detail to go around the barbettes, placing the ladders there. We've got structure that goes on top, building ready use lockers, the rangefinder windows, quite a lot of etch on the secondary armament as well, replacing the barrels for those as well. Then the anti-aircraft guns, totally made up of etch, so we're trimming away the kit parts and putting etch on. A lot of etch to assemble there. Then as we turn over, we've got etch shields to go with it. The whole thing's made of etch, which for me means it'll be a little bit flat. I don't like etched gun barrels because they become a bit two-dimensional. But they do give you where they want you to use plastic rod. They're telling you the sizes, which is nice. As always, etch is an additional extra that you can buy into. You can choose not to. So You might use some of these points. We might use the etch gun shields, but not replace the guns, maybe. Then we've got photo etch for the torpedo tubes. So from grab rails to new deck and deck structures. Then you've got step-by-step how to fold the complex mesh that becomes the two different radars, and it tells you which ones they are, which is good. Again, you need to put some plastic rod in. We have colour key there that tells you the placement for all the different vent louvers and window lockers and so on and so forth. We've got the Admiral's Bridge construction there, searchlight platform, shows you where to put them, shows you the position of all the... So the detail is really nice, location points and so on, working on the various different stuff. Then we've got making up the funnel. We've got all sorts of additional components for some of the superstructure decks. Making up the masts. Should all look quite nice. Then you've got the aircraft there. They've not overcomplicated it, which they could have done. And then you've got the catapult there and the catapult deck, which is nice. Then we're starting to see the ship's boats. They give you some of the railing that is not included in the kit, so that you can build up the back end where there would be covers. So all the ship's boats gets done. The hangar gets done with detail, which I think is really nice. It really adds something to the hangar there, which could be, if you've got that open, could be really quite a main focal point of the ship. Then you've got this complex replacement. So there's some nice detailed explanation of the replacement of this framework here that goes along the side of the lower superstructure. And unlike the photo etch in the white ensign set, we've got all the little support struts for it as well. So that will look really detailed and authentic when it's on. We've got modifications to the pyrovanes there, and thinning out some of these gun tubs and splinter shields, and that adds lots of extra detail as well. And then when we flip it over, we've got the crane assembly there, so building up the crane and the various different parts that go onto the plastic parts. We've got a replacement base, building up the boat davits and boat chocks. I mean, going from there to there, it's a million miles of difference. We've even got detail for the tiny little plastic parts which have the spare anti-aircraft barrels in. Then we've got the companionway ladders there, various different bits going on the deck, so deck hatches and so on and so forth. Looks like we even have additional parts to go on, which is nice. And you can even have the rigged booms, and that looks like, yeah, we've even got the paravane rig in there. So it gives you some more options in how you animate the model as well. Finally, right at the bottom there, we have some positioning for some of the stuff. So red dots is the 4cm flak, or 40mm if you like. 20mm flak is the green dots, and the purple dots, which are just there, are the double anti-aircraft guns. So it's a very comprehensive set. So between that and the white ensign set, we should be able to make something that looks very, very fine. The last thing to talk about is reference material, and I quite like these books. Obviously, what you get in here is drawings. It's not primary evidence. But someone or a team of people have done research into this to get this as accurate as possible. And you can either use their research and proceed at risk, or you can do your own research, which will take an awful lot longer. I generally will do this and cross-reference it with original photographs and period photographs we can get on the internet, because we can blow those up and stuff. The other thing that's nice about these books, before I show you what's inside, is that they come with line drawings, and those line drawings tend to be 1/350 scale. So I actually have 2 scale line drawings for this, which gives me something that I haven't got in the etch sets and something I haven't got in the kit, which is the rigging diagram. So we can see where we're going to rig, so that's really nice as well. Gives me the position of the scuttles, which we can reference against the model. Gives me an aerial view, so we can see the line of the rig as well as the side view there. It shows me placement points for the ladders and bits and pieces like that. And then we have the other profile view, the other side, just in case there's any differences. So that's really nice. And then if we flip her over onto the other side, we get blown up views of various different bits. So we've got the stern mast assembly there, for example. So we can get a closer look at the rigging, the signal flags. We can see how some of these vents look and where the little hand rungs are. We can see how the radar array should look and some of the other very light detail work around there. So all in all, it gives us lots and lots of detail on the drawings. But we don't just get the drawings, we get a whole book full of imagery, so let's take a look at that. So what we get is a set of pictures, and then we get some 3D pictures as well, so they give you some 3D glasses to help you out with that. There is an introduction which talks about the specification, armour protection, armament, the radar equipment, and takes you through the stages when they were changed and so on and so forth. Lifeboats, complement, dimensions. Then you get an operational history with some nice pictures of her. Quite a big history there. Obviously she had quite an eventful life. And some teaser pictures. And then we go into the detail. And what they do is, these are all basically 3D CAD drawings based off their research, but it shows you close-up details of things that you may be able to then transfer to your model. So, for example, the little square plate there, the fact that you've got a little black line around some things, but not all things. The colours there that you can see, people often miss that there were red and green, that they had two different colours on their port and starboard. So this is starting at the bow, and then you've got things like the paravanes, main armament with the viewing port shut, scuttles. So the difference between a scuttle and a porthole: scuttle has a lid. If you can close the hole, it's a scuttle. If you can't close the hole, it's a porthole. Then we've got the bridge there. I mean, lots and lots of close-up pictures. And because it's in colour, it gives you a good idea of what you should be doing with things like the ship's boats and the different colours of woods. What should be visible as brass. So the voice pipes, for example. We've got a nice picture there of that complex davit system for the ship's boats and where the tie downs go. Then we've got the funnel, all the grab rails, the rigging around it, what that should look like. The rafts, notice that they're not bright yellow. Then we've got the vents with the mesh behind it, so the flyhawk etch will capture that. Notice that the scuttle lids don't have the red centre like they did on the Bismarck, so don't think that was a generic Kriegsmarine thing. Then we've got anti-aircraft guns. If you can locate where something is on a ship, you know what type of watertight door to put on. Got some nice close-ups of the camouflage for the aircraft. See the little bright red bits on there, so that'd be nice to try and get on if we wanted. There's the catapult with the compressed gas that shoots it off. So lots and lots of lovely detailed photos, ship's bell. So the little housing on top of the torpedo tube. There's another view of the catapult, and you've got quite a clear picture of the mast there with the rigging on. That's interesting. That's orientated. I would have naturally assumed it went down. So others go down, so it's interesting that that one goes up. You can see the shells in there, you can see what bits are black, what colour the barrel should be. It all helps with what we're trying to do to make this look right. Stripe on the turret there, and as we get to the back we might see some different pictures of that. Then we've got the rigging up there. It says stern port side boat boom and the port propeller guard. So there's your propeller guard, then you've got the boom, and we know that with the flyhawk etch we've got everything we need to build that up. So jack staffs, got the pilot, not quite sure what they're called, about the way the bow anchor is visible. Yeah, so this is the bow, but these were folded out. Basically they would fold up and fold away, and then you'd fold them out so you could stand on them and get a better view of what's going on when you're docking and so on. More rafts. Booms are wood coloured because they tend to get battered, so they get chipped quite quickly. Got the radar mesh there, which is a sort of a black colour. It just goes on and on. I mean, that's a little plastic point. I didn't realise that was glass, so we can paint that in now. We've got all the various little lights being shown there, so that's really handy. Those little things just bring out a ship when you're painting it, because a warship's got so much grey. Any dollop of colour you can put on it really stands out. Then we do close-up of the armament. Then we've got the 3D pictures, which will look a bit odd. And then you've got all the other books that they do. I really like these. They're not for everybody, but I really like these. They complement an anatomy of the ship book really, really well. So that completes this first impressions view and a look at what you can get aftermarket wise. When we do come to build this, we'll absolutely go to town on it. It won't be a quick build. I won't even class this as a medium build, so this will be a major build when we come to do it. yeah, so thanks for looking in. I hope that was useful and helpful in some way. Gives you a view of what's in the box. It's a very, very nice kit. Stay safe, everyone, and I will see you soon.